We are cooking with gas. So it is a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to spend time like this, sharing and hopefully being a ray of light to you. So thank you for having me. Thank you for joining. I'm really happy to be on the Hills and Tech platform. Now, what you see on screen is reinvent yourself. How to make yourself. That would be great.
Pack all your your books, all your books, all
Yourself. I'm just going to go ahead and mute a number of people on here. All right, as you join in, please mute yourself. Thank you very much. All right, so reinvent yourself. That is the big takeaway of this entire session that we're having today. If anything, if there's any one thing you take from your time here today, let it be just that one phrase: reinvent yourself. Using my story and my career journey, I'm going to share 5 steps to help you do just that where your career is concerned. Whether you're trying to start out in your career journey, grow within your current space, or pivot to a new career, especially if you're trying to pivot into a tech career. My mentor and friend tells me time and again how he thinks people should reinvent themselves around every 10 years. The first time he said it to me, I was like, oh, what are you talking about? But then I moved over it for a bit and I realized that there was some truth in there, even in my own career journey. So let me start by telling you a bit about myself. My name is Tobe. I started out my career with earning a degree in economics. And then I worked as a business development manager for about 1 year while I was doing my NYSC. I think most people are Nigerian, so we know what NYSC is. Then I went ahead and I switched paths and spent almost a decade working in the broadcast media space in Nigeria as a radio presenter and a manager. A few years ago, after I migrated to the United States, I pivoted to tech as a systems analyst, and now I work as an engagement manager with Amazon Web Services, helping my clients successfully migrate their databases and workloads to AWS Cloud. Now, with all of these career progressions that I've had, when I think about it, there really was around a 10-year gap within which I played around with stuff. So going to school, getting my degree, doing my NYSC. When I think about that time, it's maybe, secondary school to graduation, it's around the 10-year window. And then when I think the amount of time I spent in broadcast media, it's around the 10-year window. So that made me think, perhaps my mentor was onto something. Maybe every 10 years, we do have the opportunity to change something big about ourselves. But I think that in my career, in my journey, the biggest jump really has been my jump to tech. Because it wasn't just pivoting from one career to another. It was me moving from one country to another. When you move to a new country and you have to figure your life out all over again, there are many challenges that come your way, challenges that stretch you to whole new breaking points. But it also comes with a very, very unique opportunity to do a whole 360 reinvention of yourself. But a relocation, though, is not the only time that you can reinvent yourself. Self-reinvention in and of itself starts with a change in your mindset. And this is step 1 in your process of reinventing yourself. It's the biggest step, and it is the most important thing that you need to do to successfully change any aspect of your life, including your career. Once your mindset around anything changes, everything in its wake will change along with it. So after almost a decade of being on broadcast radio, I had become very good at it. I mean, I was a presenter, I was a producer, a manager, a trainer. By the time I was 25, I was a programs manager at one of the biggest radio stations in southeastern Nigeria. By the time I was 27, I was the a deputy station manager at another radio station. Before I left Nigeria, I was going around radio stations and offering them, training for their presenters. So I was pretty good at my job. I knew all about radio, but I didn't know a lot about any other career path. So when I moved to America, the only thing that I knew was radio, right? And so in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to get a radio job. Or if I don't get a radio job, just go get a random small job, something to keep body and soul together and stop me from, lacking food in a sense, right? But then getting a radio job in America was, it was not beans. Because first of all, to be successful on radio, there is a certain knowledge you have to have of the area that you're living in, right? There's that in-depth feel you need to have of the people, the sorts of things that they enjoy. And I just didn't have that. I was moving to a whole new country I had never lived in before. Plus, I also had the accent challenge. In the radio business, the accent challenge is a real thing. So getting a job on radio was just not something that I could do. And so I went ahead and just took a random job at a call center. Now, while I was working at a call center, I remember someone telling me of a friend of his who made $80,000 a year. And the idea of $80,000 a year, at that point, it was, wow, it was massive. Like, people made that kind of money. At that time, that was more than twice what I was earning at the call center. As a matter of fact, my idea of excellence at that time in my life was going up the ranks to becoming maybe a supervisor in the call center and earning maybe around $20 an hour. That's maybe 45 to 50K a year. And for me, that was goals, right? That was it. I couldn't even imagine earning more than 50 grand. And then a friend of mine in Nigeria actually introduced me to a friend of hers who lived in a different state here in America. And so I took a trip to go, visit and just spend time and have a good time. And on that trip, I saw foreigners, I saw other Nigerians who were not only making six figures, but they were living a very balanced and fine lifestyle. They had nice houses, they had time to enjoy themselves, they lived well, they looked good. For me, that was the mental trigger. That was what flipped a switch in my head. So in less than 1 month after that trip, I went from trying to make my way up to making $20 an hour to working on a career transition that I had learned would start me out at around $30 to $50 an hour. In less than 1 month, my mindset around what excellence and a good life meant completely changed. The first step is always to change your mindset. Now, for you to do that, you need to find triggers for yourself, right? You need to find things that help you think differently about your situation. So read a book, find quality people to follow on social media, travel, talk to someone who might know better, attend a session like this, be a part of wholesome communities that give you value and expose you. You must get your mind to realize that bigger things are out there and are possible and are within your reach. Now, there's a second step that you're going to go to right after switching your mindset, and that step is for you to find yourself. Finding yourself involves quietening the noise, being still and silent, and taking the time to know who you are. Where your career is concerned, it means learning what makes you tick. What are you good at? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the parts of your story, your journey that paint you in the best light? What skills do you have which you can leverage? Yes?
Please, we have some people in the meeting room. Can you accept
okay. Okay, cool.
Yes, about that. Or you could pass on the host to us so we can accept them on your behalf.
Okay, will I still be able to share screen?
You should.
Okay.
You
So, a moment. I something around. So I'm seeing users and tech accounts. Which one to pass to?
Thanks. Yes, you're good.
Okay, so I've made you host. Are you guys still able to see my screen?
Yes,
we are.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I'm going to go on quickly to step 2. I was talking about how it involves you finding yourself and identifying the things that are your strengths and your weaknesses, knowing the things in your journey that paint you in the best light. What skills do you have which you can leverage and transfer? What skills do you lack? And how can you gain those skills? What line of work are you passionate about? So Earlier on, I told you about the trip that I took that changed my mindset. On that trip, I met someone who told me about the business analysis career path and gave me a training manual to go over to help me understand what the job was. It took me 3 days to start visualizing myself in that role. I started doing more research. I started finding people to teach and mentor me and signing up for classes, YouTube videos, and all of that. But it took me around 3 months to really, truly find myself, to learn what had made me successful as a radio presenter and just figure out the weaknesses and flaws and the skills that I needed to learn and the skills that I already had that would make me be a good BA. I needed to identify the things that I didn't know and how I would learn those things that I didn't know so that I could be successful in this new career path. I had to decide if building a career as a BA would align with the kind of life I wanted to live and the problems I wanted to solve. So let's dive a bit deeper. Now we're going to have a bit of an activity. Let's dive a bit deeper into finding yourself because it is work. It is work. And sometimes it is uncomfortable work because you're having to look yourself in the mirror. You're having to self-assess. And sometimes that can be painful, right? But think about it. If your mindset changes and you don't do the work, which the change in your mindset pushes towards you, what was the point? So let's go ahead and play around with this activity here. This is an activity that's part of my, I've got a workbook called the Finding Yourself workbook. And this is one of the activities in it. It's from the skills section. So on the screen, there are 3 questions. We're going to modify the questions a little bit just to fit, the time frame that we have. So just think to yourself real quick, what is one of your top hard skills? You can comment, you can put a comment in the chat box so that way I can see. What is one of your top hard skills? Think about something that's technical, a technical skill, a tool, a software, a machine, something that you're able to use very quickly, very easily. You don't need it's like second nature to you, almost like, muscle skills. You don't, if someone wakes you up and says, hey, do this thing, you're able to figure it out. What is your top hard skill? Go ahead and put your comments in the chat box. For some reason, I'm not able to see the chat box. Okay, I see it now. So go ahead and put one of your top hard skills in the chat box, something that you are very able to do very quickly. I see writing, planning, editing, teaching, financial analysis. Okay, great. These are lovely hard skills, right? Now, what is the one thing you cannot deliver with your skill? So if you're a person who says your skill is editing, what is the one thing that you think people want, some sort of value that people want, which you cannot do with your editing skill? If you are good with teaching and training, what is the one thing that you cannot do with that skill? Go ahead and put it in the chat room. You might want to just think about it a little bit, but think about it and put that comment up. Let's see what it is that you think you cannot do with the skill that you have, this one top skill that you have. Lillian says presentation slides. Okay, right? And you said that you're planning. So with your planning skill, you cannot make presentation slides. Great. Buki says software development. Great. Okay. Now, what is the skill you need to gain and deliver that one thing you cannot do with the skill you already have? So you have a skill, but then there is something you cannot do. What is the skill you need to gain so that you can do this thing that you cannot do? Now, with this simple exercise, would you say that you've gained some insight into a skill gap that you can fill? or at least you're thinking about that. You're thinking about how to fill this gap. There's this thing that you know you would like to be able to do, but you cannot do. And so now you're thinking about how you would fill that gap. This is how you do the work. This is how you find yourself. This is how you get to know what your strengths are. You get to know what your gaps are, and you get to know the specific next steps you need to take to help you fill your own gaps. Remember, what we are working towards is the reinvention of self. So as you take stock of where you are and where you have been, you better position yourself to be ready for where you want to go. Everyone who attends my event on the 10th of April will be getting a free upgraded copy of the workbook, and I'll tell you about the event at the end of this presentation. But now let's move on to step 3 of reinventing yourself. The third step to reinvent yourself is to seek help. I think that we are in a very fortunate generation with how easy it is to access information and connect with valuable people. There's always someone who is more knowledgeable than us or ahead of us, or who has an interesting perspective or story or experience that gives us some clarity. So seek those people out and have them help you. But now let us talk a bit about help and what that looks like. If you're fortunate, you might receive full-scale benevolence. You might have someone who is going to go out of their way to give you their time, their support. They're going to, help you find discounts. They're going to help you find programs. They'll offer to train you on something. They will spend time and invest themselves in you. If you get that, please don't take it for granted, because time is valuable. People have a lot of other things they could be doing with themselves instead of helping you. So when you have a person who helps you like that, please do not take it for granted. But you see, that is not the only way that you can get help. Sometimes following a person on social media and just consuming their content is all the help that you need. Sometimes signing up for a person's class, workshop, or webinar is the help that you need, like something like this, right? This is help for you. Sometimes enlisting in the service of a coach or a tutor is the help that you need. Seeking help does not equal seeking benevolence. What you need help with is information, perspective, guidance, and preparation. And sometimes these things will cost you. As a matter of fact, valuable support and help and information will most likely cost you. So maybe one way to think about seeking help is to look at it as seeking a valuable opportunity for self-improvement. So let's go back to my personal story a bit. After I decided that I was going to transition into the BA career path, I got connected to 2 people who were trainers. I spoke to both of them. I read a bit about their profiles, and I felt more aligned to one just because she seems to have my kind of background. She was an immigrant. When she moved to America, she was working as a security guard for a couple of months, and then she pivoted to the BA career path. So I felt like, okay, this is someone I could connect with. She understood where I was coming from. So I signed up for her class. At that time, I really couldn't afford it. I think it was around $2,000 for the class, and I didn't have $2,000, but she had a payment plan where I could make a quarter payment every 2 weeks. And so I started the class making the payments every 2 weeks. And I lived around 3 hours from where she had her classes. So every Saturday morning, I would drive 3 hours to be there by 10 a.m. I'll be in class for 4 hours. Then sometimes, if I couldn't find a place to stay, I would turn right around and drive back home for another 3 hours. This tutor, her name is Lore. She not only helped me understand the BA role, right? She helped me understand the kind of work that I'll be doing as a BA. And she also shared her journey with me. She shared the small, unorthodox ways she had achieved quick career progression. I mean, in her story, she went from being a security guard and then started out being a junior, a junior business analyst. And then in like 6 months, she became a senior business analyst. Now, sharing that sort of career progression with me, that was a big deal. That was the push and motivation that I needed. At that time, she didn't know a lot about Agile, but she told me that Agile was the next thing, and she encouraged me to learn about agility. She gave me tips on how to enhance my resume, my interviewing methods, my choice of words. I learned nuances from her. In a space of about 8 to 10 weeks, she poured so much knowledge, motivation, ambition, and just raw grit into me. It cost me. it cost me financially. I had to take a second job so that I would be able to afford paying for the classes without dropping the ball on my bills at that time. And it cost me physically. I mean, driving 6 hours almost every Saturday was no joke. It cost me a social life because between working 2 jobs during the week and spending 10 hours out of the house on Saturdays, studying and trying to pass exams, where was the life? Where was I making friends? Where was I doing anything fun? But I can tell you with all certainty that seeking out and getting help from Laura, paying for that help was one of the things that set the foundations for the successes that I have earned in my career over the last 4 years. So seek help. Find people, or at least find one person who can put fire and hunger in you and who can teach you to feed that hunger.
Okay.
Can you mute yourself? Please, can you mute yourself? Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on quickly to step 4 for reinventing yourself. I'm sorry that my slides are a little out of sync. So for step 4, you need to learn the art of speaking about yourself from a place of value. Now, if I asked you to tell me about your work experience, would you tell me about the work that you did and the deliverables that you achieved? Or would you tell me about the value that your deliverables brought to the team, client, or business? The way that you speak about yourself, your experience, and your achievements need to move from being task-based to being value-based. For instance, compare these 2 sentences. I created spreadsheets for the team to use in tracking the progress of their tasks versus I helped improve the visibility into the team's delivery progress by designing a task tracking system. So drop in the chat, which one do you consider to be more value positioning, A or B? Drop in the chat and let me know.
It's been.
She said it's B now. So if you spoke to 2 people, right, and these 2 people, told you about their experience using these words, which one of them would you want to work with? Which one of them would you want to hire? Which one would you want to be your mentor, your mentee, and your friend? It would be the person with B, right? Now, at the interview for my current job, one of the questions I was asked was, why Amazon? My response to that was, why not Amazon? Amazon is a company positioned to be the universe's most customer-centric company. And throughout my career across multiple industries, my work and track record have the underlying value of putting my customers first. So the way I see it, the primary value that drives my career aligns with the primary value that drives Amazon. So why not? What do you think about my response? Put your thoughts in the chat. Let me see. What do you think about the response that I gave to that question?
It's fantastic.
Right. I think so too. I want to see your comments. What do you think? And if you had to answer that sort of question, what notes would you take from the response that I gave? Now, I'm going to tell you why I know my specific response further down in the final step. I'll tell you why I know the specific response that I gave to this question. And you'll see why it's important to get everything down to the final step. Now, your choice of words, your tone of voice, and your body language when speaking about yourself have the power to etch you in the subconscious of those who encounter you. It can also be the thing that gives you the negotiation leverage when you get an offer. So you want those words, particularly if what you're doing is trying to pivot careers, you want those words to be value-oriented. You want them to be confident and self-assured. So think about the value of the work you have done in your career journey. For many people, this is not a natural skill. It is something that you have to work on deliberately and learn. In my Know Yourself workbook, there's a section that helps you through this thought process. The Hills and Tech admin and I have talked about a mentoring opportunity with me sometime in the future. So if you get to be part of that, I will help you through that thought process of speaking about yourself from a place of value. But if not, you can find yourself a coach, you can find resources, you can find ways and practice to help you get better at this, because you need to know how to present yourself as as the linchpin, as the main thing, as someone who knows what they're about and is confident in their skills and their value. Now that takes us to the final step. Oh yeah, I was going to put an activity in here, but let's skip that real quick. We can come back to that. Let's talk about the final step in the process of reinventing yourself. And this is something that I want you to be very mindful of. It is record and practice. Write things down, make audio recordings, video recordings, and practice. The reason I was able to tell you the specific words with which I answered the question, why Amazon, is because prior to my interview, I had written down the answer to that specific question. During my interview, I recorded myself. So I knew that what I wrote down is exactly what I said. Now, last year, when I decided that I was going to switch jobs before I moved to my Amazon job, I started prepping myself for interviews and practicing answering questions and telling my story and all of that. The first few interviews that I had left me feeling a little bit unimpressed with myself, but I also found that I did not know why I was unimpressed with myself. I struggled with figuring out what went wrong with the interviews. So I started recording my interviews when I could, and I started recording my practice sessions. So I could go back and I could review what I said, how I said it, my tone, my facial expression, everything, and I could find them. For my current position, the final interview was in person and it was 5 rotating interview panels. If you ever interview at Amazon, and I hope that you do, you might experience this. By the time the 5th panel came into the room where I was sitting down, one of the panel members commented on how relaxed and put together I still looked, considering that I had just had 4 other panels interview me. The reason I could do that was because I went there fully confident in my ability to speak to my strengths and my values and my skills and tell my story with not just my words, but with my voice, my face, my gestures, and my overall body language. I had practiced it. So when you're talking about a time when maybe you were the linchpin who made the project successful, let the pride come across in your voice and your eyes and your... When you're talking about a time when you made a project successful, when you were that pivotal addition to the team that made things become great and successful on the team, on the project, let the pride come across in your voice, in your eyes, your smile, your excitement. When you're talking about a time when you made a mistake and it caused problems, let the realization of that error come across in your voice and your expression as well. We all want to work with human beings, especially in the tech industry. We want to work with people who have emotion and can express themselves. So go from having a flat tone while talking about your work to having a dynamic range of expression. This helps you come across as confident, personable, and relaxed. Many of us are not natural born orators who can weave a story and talk without flinching, right? The only way to achieve this is to practice and to record. Write your story and record yourself telling your story. As you interview, if you can, record your interviews and review them every step of the way. Now, before I go on to the main takeaways from this, I want us to go back a bit to I want us to go back a bit to an activity that I had skipped. One moment, I'll stop sharing my screen and start again in a bit. I want us to have a quick activity for learning to talk about ourselves from a place of value. Let me move back to that slide. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I have 2 scenarios on here. I think there's a third one. I have 2 scenarios on here. The first one is you work in a call center as an inbound customer care representative. Regularly, you receive and resolve 3% more calls than other reps. How would you talk about that experience from a place of value? You can go ahead and type up something real quick in the chat. There's the second scenario. You are a food and nutrition teacher in Queen's College. I had to use Queen's College. That's the school that I went to. So you were assigned 4 classes every week, and each class had at least 55 registered students. Each week, you had 4 classes. How would you talk about that experience from a place of value? Scenario 3, this is a wild card, and if you're feeling confident and you're in the audience and you want to give me a real life scenario, we can talk through your real life scenario and talk about how you can share that experience from a place of value. But before we do that, let's have the first 2 scenarios in the chat section. How would you, hypothetically, if that was your real experience, how would you talk about this experience from a place of value? I'm going to give you guys a moment to work on that. Are you guys working on it? Are you thinking about it? While we're working on that, Tomiwa, do you want to pick someone from the audience, or should we just do fastest fingers first? Does someone want to share their real life experience? And let's talk about how we can share that story, talk about that experience from place of value, move words around, change the perspective. Does someone want to try, share their own real life scenario? You can just unmute yourself and go right ahead. Anyone? Are we shy?
Hello, everybody. My name is Peculiar. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you, Peculiar.
Okay. I'm a safety and administrative officer in marine industry, in a marine company. My company is into marine logistics, and I oversee both the safety and administrative duties of the organization. So that's my real life experience scenario, sorry.
Okay, so you oversee safety and admin what?
Administrative aspects of the marine industry.
Okay, so let's talk through let's talk through the sort of value that you might be bringing to that business. So if you're providing safety and administrative sort of processes and work descriptions, for the administrative side, you are most likely creating processes, making documentation clearer, creating insight into the handling and everyday processes for the business, correct? Okay, and then on the
Yes.
safety side, through your experience and your time working in the logistics company, do you think that you have saved them any money in terms of being proactive with stopping losses through maybe theft, through maybe on funds that are unaccounted for, processes that were maybe in a blind spot before that you brought to light? Do you think that those are things that you've done for the business?
Yes, I think so, because when I first joined a year ago, the company didn't have a safety officer. I was actually employed as an administrative staff, but I had safety certifications, so I opted to do the job with an increase in pay, of course. So I was able to reduce, and when I first joined, a lot of staffs, due to the marine nature of our jobs, you have to 100% be on your complete personal protective equipment at all times, but they were not adhering to those safety rules and regulations. So I had to inculcate it into our crew and our personnel that safety should be paramount. So I had to inculcate the culture of putting on PPEs, ensuring I chased my management in ensuring that PPEs, complete PPEs is provided for each and every personnel on board the marine vessel. I was also able to, at the time when I joined, people would stay on board for months, for like 6 months, and they wouldn't go home. So I was able to inculcate work-life balance by preparing a time of schedule for personnel to go home and rest at some point after a period of time. So I believe that I've been able to bring value to the company by saving them money, reducing accidents, ensuring that the personnel are always doing their PPEs, and also ensuring that there is work-life balance by preparing leaves or time offs for personnel.
So I like, how where you're able to talk more about, your experience and the actual value that you brought into the company. And on there, I could easily say that you helped the personnel retention in that company, because if there is higher work-life balance, there's a higher chance that people are not going to want to leave the company, correct?
Correct.
So when you think about your experience, now if you put down bullet points, okay, add
I'm on actually in one seminar like this.
please mute yourself. Please, if you're not peculiar, please mute yourself. Thank you. So I could you could put down bullet points. First thing that you did was improve safety standards and culture within the company. The next thing that you did was save them money by reducing claims on work environment hazards and work accidents within the workplace, and you also improved their personnel retention in the company, right? Those are three very major value points that anybody who is trying to hire will be interested in. So now let's talk a little bit more peculiar. If you were writing that into your resume, because in your resume, you're not just putting, remember, we're taking you from thinking task-based to thinking value-based, right? So you're not just going to write the task that you did. You want to write about the value that you provided. So if you want to put these three value points into your resume, how would you, let's just pick one of them. How would you write it? What are the words you would use to express it? And as you're thinking about this, think about throwing some numbers in there, throw in some percentages, right? So maybe if the year before you joined, 5 people resigned from their jobs, and then the year that you joined and started implementing this, only 1 person resigned from their job. What you have done is you have given the company about a 75% increase in their retention rate, right? So is this 75%? I don't know the math, but you get my point. So think about it in that context, and then tell me how you would write these skills into your resume. So not these skills, this value that you gave the company, how you write them into your resume.
Okay, I'm going to pick the safety aspect of my job.
Mhm.
Okay, over the last 1 year, I was able to reduce hazard and improve the safety of personnel by 55%.
By doing what? Because now you've said what you've done.
By inculcating safety habits and safety culture into the personnel, by taking taking safety talks every morning before work, by providing safety equipment, personal protective equipment for all staffs, personnel on board and on shore.
Let me stop you there right now, because we're talking about your resume. On your resume, you already have this one bullet point that is addressing this value add that you have. So you're not going to add other bullet points in there right now. If you're talking about it, you would say you improved safety by 45% by, you could say, implementing new workflows around safety trainings, availability or deployment of safety materials, right? And what was the third thing that you said? So we're trying to put it into one statement. What was the third thing that you said that you did?
Take safety talks and prepared safety preps every morning before start of work.
Okay, so you were able to increase the safety within the organization by 45% by implementing a new workflow around safety training and the deployment of safety PPE, like safety gear
Yes.
personnel, right? So that statement has said the value add, which is 45% improvement in safety. You're saving people's lives. Nobody wants to pay money for people that are hurt when they're doing work for them in their company. And then it shows what you did. Now, if I was an interviewer and I saw that and I cared about safety during the interview, that's when I would ask you, so tell me about the new workflows that you implemented. And that's when you can start to talk about how you were having trainings every morning. You know, it puts you in a place where you can speak comfortably about the actual day-to-day work that you were doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so does that make sense for every other person? I see a bunch of people in the chat section trying out their restructuring of the first and second scenario. We're going to come to that. So thank you, Peculiar. I hope that this little activity with Peculiar, you know, kind of like sets the tone for the kind of mindset that you have to have around considering your work, the work that you do, the tasks that you do every day, and then thinking about the value that your day-to-day work has brought to the company, and then figuring out the words you use to talk about that value so that it opens up the door for you to speak about yourself from your places of strength, right? Now, Oge said, I pride myself on providing solutions quickly and resolving issues so clients don't have to wait a long time to get their queries resolved. I think that is a lovely statement. That is a lovely statement that, you know, when you're talking, you can say that, and that's something you can possibly put in your resume summary. But in the context of looking at it for maybe a bullet point within the job experience, I'm finding that a little bit, right? So if you can mute yourself, that would be great. Thank you. So if I were, you know, I'll take scenario one. I were writing scenario one and thinking about it from the value that I provided. The first value that I provided there is an increased rate of resolving the customer. That's the first thing I'll put there. And I wouldn't look at it just from the 3% more calls and other reps. I would look at there's feedback that I'm getting that is so strong. If you could see yourself, so strong. If I can mute anyone. I'm sorry, guys. I just Noye, you're unmuted. Mute your microphone, Noye. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So if I was going to take this customer service scenario, I would think about it from the perspective of the 3%, right? The 3%, I'm taking 3% more calls than other people. But what does that 3% mean in the grand scheme of things for the customer experience, right? So I would say I increased how would I call it? You know, so when a person calls, I'm trying to think about this. When a person calls at a radio station, it's the response time, right? So you increase the overall response time within the company by, I don't know, maybe when you map out your 3%, it comes to around 1% across the company, right? You delivered a 1% increase in the response time for your clients by doing XYZ. Now, what your XYZ would be here would be, hey, by figuring out by implementing an upgraded time management workflow on my on myself while taking calls. Of course, you don't put it in these terms, but that's the mindset that I would use to think about it, right? How does this, your 3%, translate into the bigger picture? And what was the specific thing that you did to achieve that? That's how you write it and think, hey, what's the value that I provided to the entire company? I hope that this makes sense. And this helps in a way to kind of like just set us on that path of thinking about ourselves from a place of value and the work that we've done. So let's move on. We've already gone through step number 5. And so now let's talk about the takeaways, the 5 takeaways from this entire time that you've spent with me today. We're going to be wrapping up soon. It is: first, change your mindset. Second, find yourself. Third, seek help. Fourth, speak about yourself from a place of value. And fifth, practice your delivery. So all of these things are the key takeaways, the things that I consider to be the steps to reinventing yourself. And if every time you want to reinvent yourself, you go over these steps, I think that you will do it successfully. But before you even get on the path to reinventing yourself, you have to take ownership of your life, right? Take ownership of your process, of the outcome of your life, of how your life plays out in all of the different facets of it, whether it's your career, whether it's your finances, whether it's your relationships, whatever it is. So next month, I have put together an online event to help you take ownership of 3 areas of your life, which is the finance, the career, and the human relationships part of your life. We will have 5 speakers and 6 panelists. It is a one-day workshop with activities, a live LinkedIn review, and many resources, including ebooks to help you get started with investing, workbooks from my Finding Yourself series. This is part of the workbook that I shared here, and other workbooks within that series as well. There is also going to be worksheets to help you keep track of your job search, of your budgets, and all of that. And so you can go right ahead and get tickets on www.tobeneji.com. And there is a code for everyone that's on here, HT20. That code gives you 20% off. This is an opportunity for you to seek help. It's an opportunity for you to invest in your self-improvement and your self-investment and for your own growth. So I will take advantage of it. HT20 for 20% off on the price, and the website www.tobeneji.com. And like I said, if every time you choose to make a jump and pivot, you intentionally reinvent yourself, there is no limit at all to the sorts of things that you can reach and that you can achieve. So I wish you all the best, good luck, and thank you so much for having me. If you have any questions, I am available to take them right now. So thanks a lot. Tomiwa, back to you.
Thank you so much, Tobe. That was such an insightful session. And I've just looked through the chats and I see a few people saying, oh, that was mind-blowing. Thank you, Tobe. Joy Bab says, thank you, Tobe. Tolu Musa says, thank you. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for Tobe before she goes and before we just wrap up. You can just raise your hand in the chat section and I'll give you the go ahead to speak. So does anybody have any questions? Abdul Baki says he has a question. All right, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
All right. Hi, Toby. Sorry, I joined towards the end of the session and I felt it was very great, right? But my question here is, a friend shared this with me on WhatsApp. Do we get a recording of this, for some of us that joined late, just for, to follow through and learn from the session? Then, we'll follow you everywhere, or social media everywhere, and we'll become your ardent fans.
Well, this is Tom, I think that's a question for you. We're on the Heels and Tech platform. So this content is for Heels and Tech. I believe you have to join the Heels and Tech platform.
Yeah, I joined already.
Oh, great. So you should be able to gain access to the recording. But to follow me on social media, my social media handles are, I am Tobe Neji. I'm going to pop that in the chat.
Okay.
And, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter and on LinkedIn.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tobe. Yes, we will actually be sharing the recordings for you to consume much later. So does anybody else have any more questions to ask?
I have one.
Okay, Chichi, I see you. Yes, you can go ahead to speak.
Hi, Tobe. Do you mentor people?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I do have a separate mentoring program, but for people who are part of Heels and Tech, if you are part of Heels and Tech, we'll be working on creating a mentorship opportunity for people who are part of Heels and Tech to work directly with me. The details of that you will be getting via the Heels and Tech platform, but to be part of my separate mentoring program, you can go to my website, tobeneji.com, and join the community. I will start to send out information for how to be a part of the cohorts after the event in April.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chi. Anybody else before we wrap up? Going twice. Tobe is going. If you have any more questions.
Uchenna just asked the question. He said in
Okay.
summary, how do you decide on your new career path?
In summary, how do you decide on your new career path? Well, the first thing really for me is knowing what your unique your selling point is, like that is a Don Jazzy song, I don't even remember. What is your selling point? What is your skill, right? What is it that you're able to do? And then once you identify that, Google it. Google what your skill is, and you will find the job titles that require your skill. Now, in my case, I met someone who told me, hey, you're skilled at being, from the way that you present yourself, you're going to be a good BA. Go and figure out how to be a BA, right? So I had that luck. But then after being a BA and then moving on, because in my career progression, I didn't even get a job as a BA. I got a job as a systems analyst. That's how I started my career work-wise. And then from there, I became a product owner, became an agile coach, and then moved on to now being a cloud engagement manager. Now, deciding to move on to the agile coach path, it really was, okay, these are the things that I'm good at, right? Right now that I'm a systems analyst, what next? How am I progressing from here? What is the next thing I can start targeting? What's my next ambition? And for me, it really was discovering that, hey, I enjoy training, I enjoy working with people, I enjoy teaching, and that's what coaches do. So start making moves towards becoming an agile coach. Go get the certification, go get the training that I needed. And I did all of that. It took me about a year to get all the certifications that I needed to immerse. And I did all of that within a 1-year period. So know who you are, know what your strengths are. That's part of why you should probably get the Know Yourself workbook. Know what your strengths are, know what your skills are, and then find the career that can help you do that and do that simply, right? So that is the proper way to do it. But then there's also the other way, which is, hey, look at yourself and say, you know what, I want to earn a specific amount of money. What are the job titles that will give me that specific amount of money? That is also something that I did last year when I decided, hey, I wanted to change jobs. I was changing jobs, not because I was tired of my job or anything, it's because I wanted a specific amount of money. And so I started looking for job titles that would give me that amount of money at a minimum. And I was applying to those positions. Of course, before I could do that, I had to position myself to be qualified to gain those sorts of jobs. So whatever it is that is your trigger, right? If it is, hey, I am looking for a job that allows me to use all my skills the way I want to use my skills, or hey, I'm looking for a job that pays me some kind of specific amount of money so that I can get stable and create some sort of work-life balance for myself. Whatever it is that you're looking for right now, or that you see yourself wanting in the next, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 years of your life, think about that and then look for the job, the title, the career path that gives you that, and then pursue it. So that when you get it, you will know, hey, I came for this and I have gotten this. And now I can sit here and decide on what my next move is. That's what I would say to answer that question. I hope that helps. I'm not sure who asked the question, but I hope my answer helps.
It definitely does, at least for me, actually. So thank you so much, Toby. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. I'm trying to look through the chat section, and I think we have about covered most parts.
Sorry, I have a question.
All right, you can go
Yes.
ahead.
All right. Today, I would like to know, money is a very big motivator, and I know that from my own from my own experience, I just think I want to earn more. I may not necessarily be passionate about certain things or certain career paths. So for you, what do you think is the thin line between passion, going for a career path that you're passionate about, and or the difference between going for a career path that you're passionate about and going for a career path that you just want to earn more?
I think it is where you are in life. I think your reality is what determines that. I am all for pursuing your passion, but I have a caveat for that. I'm like, pursue your passion at the time that your passion can pay you, right? Now, if
Exactly.
you're your passion and you're hungry pursuing your passion, I think that you're doing yourself a disservice, because this thing that you love will become work. It'll become painful. It'll become, it will no longer satisfy you. Funny enough, on Twitter, just this morning, there's this, I don't know if you guys know her, Eva Alodia. She's a Nigerian rapper now. She creates content and she's a teacher as well. I was reading her tweet where she shared her story, and she was like, hey, she was really struggling. She wanted to be a rapper. She was really struggling trying to, be that rapper and earn income through her rapping and through her music. But that just wasn't panning out the way that she needed it to pan out. And then she had to take a step and look at herself. Listen, I'm broke. Yes, I'm pursuing this thing that is supposed to be my passion, but I'm not even enjoying doing it anymore, because I'm not, I'm now doing it from a place of need, no longer from a place of passion, right? And she had to now figure out other things that she could do, which is she could create content, she could monetize social media. She went ahead and created like a sort of school or something where people could go and, like if you're a content creator, you could put your content there and people could buy your content off of that. And she also had her content that she was selling, and she was able to market that and start making money. Within a 1 year period, she made multiple millions in Naira. And that put her in a very comfortable place where she can now go ahead and do her music when she wants to do her music, how she wants to do her music. There isn't a pressure on her anymore to do her music a certain type of way so that she can earn from that, right? So pursue your passion. That is very good advice, but pursue your passion when your passion can feed you. If you are at the point in your life where you are not able to earn from your passion, I would greatly recommend that you think about your skills and figure out the thing that would pay you the highest for the skills that you have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One last question for you, Toby. Can you tell us
an amazing question?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day work experience at Amazon?
So this question is always an interesting one for me to answer, because it's almost like no 2 days are the same, right? It really depends on what I'm working on, the client that I'm servicing at that time. As an engagement manager with AWS, it's interesting because we work as consultants, right? So if, for instance, Hills and Tech says, hey, we have a bunch of workloads and databases, we either want to optimize in cloud, or we want to migrate from on-prem to cloud, or from another cloud provider to AWS, you come and we talk through, we establish an SOW. All that happens before it comes down to me. Now an SOW is established, and then a project is assigned, and they say, hey, who do we have to work on it? Oh, we need an engagement manager. Toby gets assigned to that project, right? So what I start to do is I become a part of Heels and Tech, right? Even though I'm an AWS staff, within the Heels and Tech platform, you would probably search for me and see my name there as a contractor, right? And so I would work with the Heels and Tech folks to really understand what their database is comprised of, the number of servers that they have, the number of workloads that they have, the dependencies around those workloads, the volume of data that they have. And then with that, I would work with my technical consultants, who are the cloud engineers, the migration experts, the database folks. I will work with them to figure out which one of the AWS products or services would work best to give this client the cheapest possible way to migrate to cloud. My job is to make sure of two things. First of all, the client is getting satisfied, and the client is getting satisfied in the cheapest way possible. My job is really to cut costs for the client. And the second part of my job is to make sure that every day my consultants are doing their part. They're doing the work that we said we were going to do. So if you know what it is to be a Scrum Master, it is a Scrum Master / a project manager, integrating into my client side and managing my AWS side. So even though I work with AWS, right now on my day-to-day, I hardly have any conversation with anybody in AWS apart from those people working on my project. I align myself more with the client that I'm servicing for any project. So that's a general look of what the work is. And day to day really just depends on the type of day that we're having, depends on what we've prioritized within the sprint for, for that 2 weeks. It just really depends. Some days are heavy, some days are light. There are days when I have meetings from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There are days when I have just 2 meetings. There are days when I have to chase down people to get things done, or find reports or establish some sort of workflow so that things are applicable to my clients. It really does depend. And as an EM, you have to be on top of your game at every point in time, making sure that you are keeping the customer first and you are not doing anything that increases the cost of the customer unnecessarily. I hope I answered that in a way that gives you the insight.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you, Tobe. Tomiwa will be taking over shortly. Thank you, everyone. I hope you had an enjoyable session.
I wanted to say, don't forget, you can get tickets for the Taking Ownership event. The discount code is HT20 to get you 20% off. And the website, I put my website in the chat, www.tobeneji.com. Go right ahead and get your tickets. The event is on the 10th of April, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there.
Thank you so much, Tobe. Please, everyone, just rush over there and get those tickets. She has been super pleasant to us, and with that, she's given us that discount code. So please kindly rush over to her website to just catch up on that. So before we go, we just have a few minutes. I would like to say a huge thank you to Tobe for her time. We want you to know that we do not take this for granted, and we are super thankful. In closing, I hope that we all remember our takeaways, which are that we should always remember to change our mindset, have a positive mindset towards life, ensure that you find yourself, because if you do not take on that self-discovery, you wouldn't know who you are or what it is that you're doing. Thirdly, it's important for you to seek help. Please and please, nobody's an island on their own, so please seek help as much as you can. Speak about yourself from a place of value. We have so many people that look down on themselves and look down on their skills. There's nobody that can sell yourself as good and as best as you can sell yourself personally. Please also ensure that you practice your delivery. As in our speaker today, I'm so sure that you loved her delivery, her poise, everything. So please remember your takeaways, and we'll see you next time on the next mentorship session here at Hills and Tech. Once again, Tobe, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And like I said earlier, we do not take it for granted. We're sending you hugs and kisses from here. And we'll be sure to hijack you once in a while to give us some massive insights.
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tobe. So goodbye, everyone, and do have a beautiful day from anywhere of the world that you are tuning in from. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.